Now, for the past several years, we here at CMA Networks have tried to give you everything you need to know about DSP. What started out as a curious new technology has now become a staple in everyday installs. So we thought today would be a great idea to invite one of our specialists, Matthew Palumbo from Audiocontrol, and go through all the things that you need to know in 2025 about DSP. This is CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM, all about audio control. And it starts now. What's going on, guys, and welcome to another CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu, and you are locked into CMA Networks, where we talk mobile electronics day in and day out. The topic today, DSP, but with a twist. Yes, we're going to be talking about audio control and some of the great products they have. But more importantly, we're going to dive into a couple of the latest updates and what has happened and evolved within DSP to what it is that's happening in the bays of everyday shops right here, right now. To help me on this quest is Matthew Palumbo from Audiocontrol. Matt, welcome to the show. Break down for us what our agenda is today.
Yeah, Ben, we've had a ton of great updates to our DSP software recently, and I just want to cover a few of those things today. We've made the software better than it's ever been, and there's some great improvements in there that really make technicians' lives easier, sales guys' lives easier, and just give the consumer a better experience overall. All of this to say, I think all of it just goes for an easier, more consistent approach to DSP.
All right, on that note, we're super pumped to get into it with you, Matt. But first, an opportunity for our partner, SiriusXM, to remind you why it's always a great attachment sale. And when we come back, let's find out what's happening with Audiocontrol DSP. We'll see you after the break.
Hey, Paul here with SiriusXM, and I'd like to talk to you about attachment selling and why the SiriusXM product is one of the best things to add, especially since we don't trade dollars with any other category. I could go through all of this, but let's hear what some of our dealers have to say.
It's an easy add-on that takes, 10, 15 minutes if we're running an antenna, 1 minute if we've got an adapter to plug it into the factory SiriusXM antenna, and it's extra money. So, no brainer.
I present it to every customer because a lot of customers don't know what all they can do with Sirius. They don't know what all content they could have. It just makes too much sense not to sell it.
It creates a different customer loyalty and customer security when you explain to them why it's a better experience. Just gets them back in the door. And then the next car, they're already asking for it again. So it just keeps selling itself. It makes more sense.
Well, there you have it. You heard from our dealers. Just remember some of the best practices. Make sure you have one on display so you can demo it. Make sure you're taking advantage of our rewards program, because if you're not taking advantage of that, you're leaving even more money on the table. Make sure you got our POP up on display. And other than that, just make sure you're recommending it.
And welcome back after the break. Of course, we have our good friend Matthew Palumbo. Matt, thanks for joining us again. Now, you and I have been talking, it seems like, DSP for years now. And truth be told, there hasn't been major advancements in the technology as far as what DSPs can do. But I think it's fair to say the better companies, such as Audiocontrol, have been keeping up with the paces, listening to customer feedback, and always trying to improve the tools and the process to make people more efficient in the bay. Did I get that wrong?
No, you didn't get that wrong at all, Ben. I mean, that's absolutely what we've been trying to do, is just give people a better DSP experience. And I think we're one of the few companies out there, being Audiocontrol, that actually still supports product that was maybe purchased a while ago. I mean, someone could get a DSP that's in their vehicle and they've had it for X amount of years, and you know what? They can still update to the latest software today and get the best features available for that product, and it's totally free to them. I think that's pretty cool.
Well, I'll tell you what's more cool than that, and it's going to be basically a segue into my first point of today's conversation. I've seen a lot of new DSP products come into the market in the last 2-3 years, and I'll be honest, some of them are coming from brands that, never really delved into the DSP thing from the get-go. And one of the key indicators where consumers, if you're watching, or dealers, if you're getting into DSP, you might want to stay away from, are when the same brand comes up with 3 different DSP processors and all 3 of them use different software. This, for me, is a huge pet peeve because, man, I don't want to train my installers and my technicians 3 different times. I want to use the same one, because if I'm going to invest the time into learning it, I'm going to learn it, but it stops there. I really don't want to learn another one. So why I'm bringing this all up, Matt, is because the nice thing about Audiocontrol is that regardless if you're using a standalone processor or you're using an integrated processor, it's the same platform. Why don't you talk to us a little bit about that?
Yeah, Ben, it's one of my favorite things about DM-SMART DSP application or software is that I'm a Mac guy, and there's a lot of DSP software out there that only runs on a PC, and it drives me nuts. DM-SMART DSP runs on Mac, PC, it will run on an iPad, it runs on an Android tablet, iPhone, Android phone, doesn't really matter unless you've got some weird BlackBerry or Palm Pilot or whatever, but or God forbid a Windows phone. But anyhow, if you have a modern smart device or you have a modern laptop, the software runs on it, and what's cool is that it looks the same regardless. So I know, some brands out there offer kind of a similar idea, but if you run their software on a smartphone, you get 50% of the options. You get kind of a DSP light. If you run it on an iPad or a tablet, you get kind of a 70%. And then if you run it on a, laptop or a desktop computer, you get all of the options. We don't do that. We don't play that game. We give you all of the options regardless of your device or screen size. And I've always thought that that's just the way to go. Now, obviously, I wouldn't advise setting up a DSP for the first time on a smartphone because the screen is small and maybe you have big fingers like I do. But still, if you're in a pinch, at least you could do it if you needed to.
Yeah, I absolutely love the fact that regardless of what type of electronic device you use, as long as you learn the software one time, you could use it on absolutely anything. And yes, I want to repeat, do not attempt, tuning an entire system for the first time using a phone. It's way too complicated, way too small. Okay, talking about a big interface, this is a new one that if you haven't heard, and I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, this may be the first time I've seen this, that Audiocontrol, because of their synergy and partnership with Stinger, has now made it possible to have the entire application for DSP control available through the Stinger Horizon touchscreen. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, Ben, this is one of the coolest things I've seen in a long time in car audio. And to the best of my knowledge, I've never seen this pulled off with any other brand. Like you mentioned, we became part of the AMP Global, now Stinger family of brands a few years back. And I think a lot of people out there were wondering, well, what's going to come of this? What are the benefits of them being together under one roof? And this is definitely one of those benefits, is that now if you are using a Stinger Horizon 10 or Horizon 12 multimedia source unit, infotainment head unit, whatever you want to call it, these big screen units offer enough screen real estate to really do it justice. And so what we've done is we built in the DM-SMART DSP app right into the head unit. You do not need a laptop or tablet or smartphone at all. You can do 100% of the setup, the tune, everything right from that head unit, save the presets, do whatever it is that you want to do. And then what's really cool is on those Horizon units, you can even go to the menu and then turn the app off. So if you're setting this up for a customer and you're a little bit concerned that they may get in there and fool around with it, you want to kind of add a little extra barrier to entry into the software. Not only can you absolutely add a password, it already comes defaulted with one, but you can actually go into the head unit's menus and turn the app off. And to be clear, this doesn't gray it out or kind of make it, harder to see. It completely removes it off of the app menu or the homepage menu with all the different sources. It's totally gone. So they just don't even know that it's there. It's pretty brilliant.
Yep. Again, kudos to the Stinger team for creating that interface. I think it's genius. I have a feeling you may not be the last time we see this. Right now, you guys are exclusive with it, so awesome. But yeah, being able to do everything right from the screen is amazing. Now, we're going to get a little bit more complex. Okay, if you guys tuning in, you might have heard of a term called phase control. Now, phase control is kind of important, right? Because sometimes you're going to get a driver that's out of phase and things just don't sound right. You're going to get cancellation of sound, so on and so forth. Why is this important? Well, if you're setting up your DSP properly, you want to make sure that all your drivers have the correct phase. Well, boo-hoo on Audiocontrol, because I remember a couple years ago, we had so many people complaining, oh, the DSP from Audiocontrol, you can't even control phase. Well, Matt, can you shut these guys up now?
Ben, I would love nothing more than to shut these people up. Yes, we actually do listen to the feedback. We do read the comments, and we may not always reply because we just don't have the team and the staff to always do that. But we do listen, and we do try to implement those changes. And one of those changes was the ability to flip the phase on each individual channel. Now, to be clear, it doesn't matter if you're using a DM608, DM810, the standalone DSPs, or any of the D-series amps with the integrated DSP and amplifier. you can now, in the DM-SMART DSP software, go in and flip the phase of each individual channel, which absolutely is important, and we wanted to make sure we included it in this most recent update.
All right, Matt, doing a great job here updating us on some of the cool updates that have happened with the new software. The next one's a good one because I'm going to call you guys out, all right? If you don't know, which you should, Audiocontrol makes one of the best RTAs on the market. It's easy. It comes in a case. It has everything you could possibly need with every type of input. It does acoustic RTA readings. It does electric RTA readings. Why am I ranting about this? Because you guys should know before you do any install, you should know what kind of signal you're dealing with. Matt, you're chuckling because you know it's true what I'm saying. Okay.
Yep.
Why am I ranting about this? Because let's say, and I assume you guys did the right job and you've already RTA'd your signal. Now you're at the point where you're tuning the vehicle and there's something not right about a signal. Well, here's a cool thing about the new update. Instead of going back out of the car, pulling out the DM-RTA, you don't need to do that. Why? Because now you can see the signal right in the software. Matt, tell these people what it's all about.
Well, Ben, you're absolutely right. I mean, really, especially when we're dealing with any sort of OEM integration or keeping a factory head unit, there should always be someone with an RTA electrically RTAing the signal, because how are we going to fix anything in that signal chain if we don't know what we're working with? Which is why all Audiocontrol DSP-enabled products have an electrical RTA built into them. So when you click on the input section and you look at all the signals that you brought in from that factory sound system, you can actually just play pink noise and then look at each of them and see, hey, is this signal full range? Is it crossed over? Is there a factory EQ? Is there maybe an all-pass filter applied? Whatever the case may be, and now you'll know what to do in the software. Do I need to do signal summing? Do I need to EQ this? Do I need to cross it over? So on and so forth. The other side of that is that our RTA not only is an electrical RTA on all of the inputs, there's also an electrical RTA on the outputs. So when you go into, say, the EQ section, you start making some tweaks and adjustments and making changes, it's actually overlaying the RTA at the same time. So as you make adjustments on the EQ, they're happening in real time. You don't have to click save to hear them, which is great. But as you're making those changes in the EQ, you will hear the changes and see them on that RTA. It's super, super cool, and it makes life so much easier. It's one of the reasons why I'm always out there preaching that DM-SMART DSP is one of the easiest DSP softwares to use that still gives you a full host of features and specs. So it's pretty powerful.
All right, Matt, I think we've done a pretty good job updating people on a couple of the cool new features on the app. This last point is going to be two buzzwords because a lot of people seem to throw these words around like they know what they're talking about. I'll be honest, I did not know what these words were until, many of my good friends, the trainers here in CMA have explained it to me. But why bringing this up is because these can now be dealt with properly through the application. These are the two buzzwords. Are you ready? Band pass filter and all pass filter. Now, you mentioned all pass just now, but please take a second and explain why these two are so important and relevant when it comes to setting up a DSP.
Yeah, Ben, I mean, when it comes to, let's just start with all pass filters, right? This is definitely one of those words where I see them tossed around on forums online and in all sorts of chats and online communities about, hey, if a DSP does not have all pass filter adjustment or the ability to employ all pass filters, then don't even consider it. And I'll be honest, in years past, we did not have all pass filters built into our products because, well, to be honest, they weren't really needed for a lot of folks. And most people, even if they had them, didn't really know how to use them. Well, a lot of techs out there have evolved and they've elevated their game. They've learned all about all pass filters. And most importantly, they've learned that the OEMs are using them. And that's the key here to me is it's not that you're always going to need an all-pass filter to make every system sound great. It's that a lot of times you have an all-pass filter from the factory sound system that you're going to need to undo if you want to do your own, say, time correction, etc. Now, to do that, you're going to have to employ an all-pass filter to undo the all-pass filter or negate the all-pass filter that the factory had already applied. It's really one of the only ways to do it is with a DSP. If you're not using a DSP in that system, there's not going to be a dang thing you can do about that factory all-pass filter. Now, when it comes to bandpass crossovers, this is a little bit different. But again, when it comes to a bandpass filter and how we're applying that and what we're using it for, it's most commonly going to be used for customer either a mid-range or mid-bass driver in like a front stage setup. So they've got a couple of subwoofers in the back. Maybe we've got a mid-bass driver in the kick panels or lower door, and then mid-range somewhere a little higher in the dash or door, and then tweeters in the A-pillars, sail panels, dashboard, something like that. Well, any speaker that has a crossover applied, of course, is limiting one side of the frequencies going to it. Most everybody in car audio, I would certainly hope, is familiar with a crossover and what it's doing to that signal. But what does a bandpass filter do? Well, a bandpass filter is going to be applying basically two crossovers, a low pass and a high pass. And having a DSP is really one of the only ways that you can apply a bandpass filter to any or every channel that you want to. And this is just one more reason why DSPs are so important to having a great sounding system in today's late model vehicles.
Well, Matt, I got to give it to you, man. You have such a way of explaining things that it's very clear and understandable. So thank you for doing that. I think we covered some really great points, which are relevant right now that's happening in the Bay for those that are deploying DSP, which is so critical these days, just because of what the manufacturers are doing with the OEM signal, right? Sometimes you just need a DSP, never mind to have great sound, but to have good sound. And that's what all these tools are all about. All right, so wrap it up for us. We didn't talk a lot about hardware today because I felt that what we're talking about today, being the special features in the app, was important. But wrap it up for us. For those of anybody who's tuning in, wants to find out more about Audiocontrol, what message do you have for them?
Well, Ben, you said it right there. I mean, Audiocontrol's tagline for 40 plus years has been making good sound great. And that's really what a DSP does. You can have a good sounding system with just some great speakers and amplifiers and having it installed well. But if you want it to sound great, you really need a DSP in any of today's modern vehicles, or even just to kind of keep up with the Joneses, right? If you're a shop out there and you want to produce systems that sound their absolute best, you absolutely have to have a DSP. So if you want to check out any of Audiocontrol's DSPs, be sure to check out audiocontrol.com. And thanks again for having me on, Ben. This was a lot of fun.
I'd like to take this opportunity and thank our good friend Matthew Palumbo from Audiocontrol for joining us today and sharing his wealth of knowledge. Hopefully you learned something today and to make you feel more comfortable and interested in checking out Audiocontrol DSP products as well as their accompanying application. Now, having said that, if you want more information, Matt said it there, but we'll put it up here again, audiocontrol.com, to find out all the details, specs, and features that you may be looking for. Now, when it comes to DSP, yes, we have spent a lot of time talking about the different processors and the different integrated processors and the different GUIs. But at the end of the day, I think we're at a place where the majority of us do understand the importance and relevance of DSP, and more importantly, that I think we've decoded something here, right? At first, DSP was such a high-tech thing that was only reserved for those, audiophile tuners. Well, that is not the case. Simply put, DSP today is imperative if your job is to put better sound into your customer's vehicle. The fact of the matter is, the vehicles have become more complex. Therefore, the tools that you need to accomplish that job need to have all the features, such as the ones covered in today's show. And Audiocontrol is one of those brands that have not only kept up with said technologies and features, but have made it and put it into a very easy-to-use interface that I think you will all agree with if you give it some time. That's it for this CMA Connected, brought to you by SiriusXM. I'm your host, Ben Wu. Until next time, we connect.